Hey guys, we're here today and we are changing the shutoff valve for a toilet supply line. Got one of these old ones right here. The problem with this one is it is an old gate valve style shutoff valve, and you keep spinning it and it spins and spins and spins and nothing's happening. It's not shutting the water off. So what we got to do first is we're going to shut off the water main so that we can remove this thing. So step one is locating the shutoff valve. The nearest shutoff valve to that toilet is that way. You trace it all the way back and we come down to this water meter right here. So we have to shut off the main to this apartment. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flip it off, and now we're going to bleed all these water lines out, leave them open while we're working so that when we remove this old shutoff valve, that all the water that's in there as we open it up won't flow out at us. It'll just drain right down. It'll pull air from all the open faucets. So we got a couple more to open. Give us a little more airflow in those lines. So we're going to remove this supply line. Most of these supply lines right here under the toilet can just be removed real easily with a hand twist. But the way we've got this tied down right now, we only have to remove the bottom portion of this braided steel supply line. So you're going to need yourself a nice little crescent wrench, a little bit of water coming out, yourself a towel just to kind of sop it up. Try to get as much of that as possible. You're never going to stop it all from getting into the floor, but you can catch most of it. You know, a little water is not going to rot your floor out. You know, if this was constant and always doing this, then yeah, those floorboards are going to rot right away. Now, let's see, this is a sweat-on one. So what we're going to need is a set of pipe cutters. I like these nice little rigid ones right here. They don't have a giant crank that goes through them. As this thing twists, it's all self-contained. Makes for a nice cut. Also works in hard-to-reach areas. We're going to go down just below where any of those nice soldered nodes are, and then we're just going to give it a spin. And then as we spin and make a couple rotations, we're going to tighten down on our pipe cutter. And sometimes you see it's hitting the wall over there. Not such a big deal because it's behind a toilet, but something to note is that your pipe cutter is not always going to fit in exactly where you want it to. The pipe cutter might not be the tool for that application. What we're going to install is a homeowner-friendly one. You don't have to learn how to sweat. You don't have to mess around with compression fittings and stuff like that. You pick it up at your local hardware store. There's SharkBite or Tectite. There's a bunch of different brands. These ones will fit on everything from your PEX pipe to your PVC and to your copper. And make sure you have a nice clean surface right here. And then right here, this is going to slide right in there and bite. Now, with these, with any of them, they come with a little plastic insert inside of them. And you're going to want to remove that because this is copper, and it recommends that for PVC and copper, you don't have the plastic insert. For PEX pipe, you're going to want to keep that plastic insert in there. And most of the time, you can't really save that plastic insert, so as soon as you pull it, it's kind of junk. So, just something to be aware of. Now, most of these come with these little screw-on caps right here, and this is for an older style of supply line. It'll bite into like a chrome brass style supply line. But these new ones, they all have gaskets in them, and they work on a compression fitting, and they just kind of screw right in. So what I like to do when I'm removing that plastic insert is I like to use a pair of needle-nose pliers here, and just kind of go in there and kind of work it past the teeth. You don't want to be too aggressive with it. It should just pop right out. Don't damage any of those teeth because those are what's biting onto your pipe. I'll say we didn't damage this one too much, so we could save this for a rainy day. Maybe keep it in your toolbox downstairs in case, you know, you do reuse this one at some point. Sometimes you can reuse them, and you end up going onto PEX pipe, and you can slide that old insert back in there. Or throw it away because, you know, this is like $7. Now these SharkBites come with this little cap for the bottom. It's for removing your SharkBite, but it also kind of dresses it up a little bit, makes it look shiny and nice. A little plastic excussion ring, and what you do is you just keep it on there like that. It makes it look nice and fancy. So you don't see that little gray ring or that little brown ring right there. And then when you pop it off while it's on the pipe, you push it right. You slide this against your pipe, push together, and pop it off. And we'll go over that in just a second as soon as we get it on there. So what we're going to do is I always like to exercise them first. I like to make sure that we twist them on, you know, in the on position and the off position. A little hard to work when you're behind a toilet, but just kind of get that valve moving a little bit. So then you push it on. Doesn't matter if it's on or off when you push it on because the water is not on. And just push down until you can't get it to go down any further. I like to kind of pull up on it a little bit and get it just like that. Now before we go into screwing this down, we know how to thread this, we've already gone over that. But what we're going to do is we're going to now show you how to use that little clip to remove it in case on another day you want to get rid of it. So you'd normally pop it in with the wide end, the wide base up, and just kind of hide that and make it look nice, right? Well, now you're going to pop it off, clip it in upside down from what we just had it, and then you're going to want to put some pressure on that tan ring. You're going to want to pull right up on your fitting, and there you go, it's off. Now, for our purposes, we're trying to put it back in and get a fresh shut off. So what we're going to do is we're going to push that back down there, spin it a little bit, try to pull back up on it, get those teeth to bite in nice and tight. We're going to keep this off for now. We'll put this on in a minute when once we get it all hooked up, we'll pressurize it. We'll check for leaks. We'll pressurize the toilet, check for leaks on the other side, and then once we know nothing's leaking, water's back on in the rest of the house, we'll pop this little ring back on and we'll go from there. Now we're gonna fight to get this old ring down. Sometimes these things get a little tight, sitting in one position over a long period of time. Sometimes you can get it going by hand. If you're not confident in your finger strength, you can start and finish with your crescent wrench. Now I always like to, you always should finish with your crescent wrench. You don't want to over tighten it because you don't want to, compression fitting is maybe is already sealing and then you tighten it down too much and you could have additional leaks, things like that, or also just kind of put a nice little divot in that gasket that's in there. And what's going to happen is you try to take that off to replace this or fix it or change out this line or whatever, and you want to reuse that. Now it's got a nice little indent in it, and sometimes it's harder to get that indent to match right up again, and you'll get some leaks from that. So you want to just nice and snug, not too tight and not too loose. Also, these are compression fittings, so those threads that were on there, you do not need to Teflon tape because it's working on compression versus the threads. The threads are not making the seal in this. The threads are just used to create the compression between the gasket here and the top of that valve. A lot of people call that double doping, and what happens when you double dope is you end up working against the compression, trying to seal those threads which are not designed to seal, and you'll get a leak. Sometimes it doesn't harm at all, and maybe you've done it in the past, and it's it's never caused any issues, but it can, and that's why we don't do that when we've got a compression style fitting. You're going to get a little twist in this. It's just normal. These will start to spin. They're designed to spin. Sometimes they get a little tighter as you tighten them down. You don't want to, or if they're a little older, they're going to give you a little problem too. But no worries. The shark bite fitting will free spin, which is nice. So as you're tightening it, as you're trying to tighten it down, it can work for you or against you. As you see, I was just tightening it there, and it was just free spinning and not actually tightening down anymore. Nice and snug, just like that. We're good to go. Now I'm going to keep it in the off position. We're going to pressurize the water system first. Okay guys, so we're going to go make sure we have all those valves shut off, the ones we just turned back on. Don't forget about your kitchen here that we just turned off. So we turned this valve off earlier, where it was going perpendicular with the water main. Now we want to make it go parallel again, which means it's open, and we should be good to go. Alright guys, we'll start right here in the kitchen. You're going to want to turn on your cold first, or hot, doesn't really matter which one you open up. You get a slug of air coming out. Good, we seem to have blowed most of the air out of that line. Now don't be concerned if you see any like brown, rusty kind of water come out. That new surge of water and pressure is probably going to knock some older stuff if you have some older lines in your building. So it's not anything to be concerned about. It's just a little of that stuff cleaning out your lines. Now once you're sure you've bled all the air from the lines, what we're going to do is we're going to get a flashlight out and we're going to check for any water leaks around that shark bite fitting. So we're going to clean it up with this towel we had, just kind of dry it up a little bit. And it's going to be a little moist, but you'll see some obvious droplets, things like that. So, and it doesn't seem to be getting any more moist, so we're going to check with that and say we did a good job there. Now, you hire a professional plumber, they typically don't use shark bites. This is a homeowner style video though, because most homeowners don't know how to sweat pipes, or maybe they're not really good at it and they just don't want to or sometimes they don't feel comfortable shooting a flame coming out of a torch around their drywall and baseboard and, you know, just next to this vinyl flooring, things like that. They just don't feel comfortable. Most people don't like fire. So one of those things just, they cost you a little more than your average sweat fittings or even a compression fitting, but man, they are handy. And one thing I do have to say about shark bites, you never want to bury them in a wall. So if you happen to be rerunning a new water line, you want to convert from copper to PEX. And PEX is so much nicer to work with, but sometimes it's the sweating of the fittings between the old existing copper and the PEX that becomes the issue for most homeowners who don't know how to sweat or are not comfortable with it. But you never want to bury it in a wall because shark bites can eventually blow out. It's not very common, but they can happen. And you don't want it in a wall where it's going to blow out. You want it in some place readily available where you can just kind of go down in your basement. If it blew out, you can kind of turn the water off and then reconnect it together. And that's kind of something you want to just always be mindful when you're using shark bite fittings. Something like this, easy accessible. If it ever blows off, you can just shut your water off, pop it back on, and you're good to go. All right, well, next step is turning the water onto this. Check, do the same thing we did there. Dry that up a little bit. Check for leaks there. Now the new flush and pressure could have also made a leak from up here. We're going to check up here as well, but I don't see anything. I think we're good to go. So now that we don't have any leaks, we'll take that little removing tool, put it in the way that it's not going to remove our shark bite, but that it's going to act as a nice little escutcheon to kind of just dress up your shark bite fitting there. We're going to clean up the ground a little bit here. Try to get as much of your water cleaned up as possible. And we'll take a peek as we try to flush the toilet. Check for some leaks, any runnage. No, nothing. I don't have anything going on here. Toilet's running fine, filling up just as we expect it to. And if we need to, shut off that toilet. That's what the valve is for. All right, guys. Well, I'm Kevin with Factotum Jack Home Repairs, and it was nice working with you guys today. Check out more of our videos, subscribe to our channel, and later on this week, I'm hoping to have another video of me taking all the guts out of this toilet tank, so stay tuned, guys.